You already know nobody is sitting around waiting for your dream to come true. Not your friends, not your family, not the world. They have their own fears, their own quiet desperation, their own dreams they gave up on years ago. And deep down, you already knew this. You just didn't want to say it out loud. But here is what nobody tells you. The moment you stop needing people to care about your dream is the moment your dream finally has a chance to become real. Most people spend their entire lives auditioning, sharing their goals on social media, telling people their plans before they even start, waiting for someone to say, "I believe in you," before they take the first step. And that waiting, that silent, desperate waiting for approval, is the exact thing that kills the dream before it ever breathes. You were never supposed to need an audience to begin. Think about the last time you told someone your big plan. Maybe you felt excited, maybe you felt seen for a second. And then what happened? They nodded, they smiled politely. Maybe they said, "That's nice." And then they went back to their own life. And you were left standing there holding this fragile thing, this vision of who you could become. And suddenly it felt smaller, not because the dream changed, because you gave it to the wrong hands. Here is the psychological truth that most people never figure out. When you talk about your goals before you achieve them, your brain actually tricks itself into thinking progress has been made. You get a small hit of dopamine from the social validation. And that hit, that tiny feeling of being seen, quietly replaces the drive to actually do the work. You told the story. The brain thinks the chapter is written. The motivation fades, and the dream dies in conversation. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. The most dangerous thing you can do right now is not failure. It is building a beautiful life in your imagination while doing nothing about it in reality. Every person who is 5 years older than you and still stuck in the same place, still talking about what they are going to do someday, they did not fail because they were not talented enough. They failed because they kept performing their dreams instead of building them. And here is where it gets uncomfortable, because that person, that could be you in 5 years. Unless something shifts right now, not tomorrow, not after you feel ready, right now. Because here is what nobody warns you about. Readiness is a lie. There is never a perfect moment. There is never enough money. There is never the right time. The people who changed their lives did not wait until they felt confident. They moved while they were still afraid. They built while they were still uncertain. They chose action over the comfortable illusion of preparation. The world does not reward potential. It never did. It only rewards proof. And you cannot show proof of something you never started. So the real question is not whether your dream is worth pursuing. The real question is, what are you actually doing today that is one step closer to it? Not planning, not visualizing, not talking, doing. Because doing is the only language the universe responds to. Now here is the shift that changes everything. Stop caring about whether people believe in your dream. Start caring about whether you believe in it enough to work for it in the dark, in the quiet, when no one is watching, when there is no applause, when the results are not visible yet. That is where character is built. That is where real transformation happens. Not in the highlight reel you post online. In the unseen hours you pour into becoming someone who cannot be stopped. Most people want the result. The rare few want the process enough to stay in it when it is brutal and boring and invisible. Which one are you? Because here is what the successful version of you already knows. Discipline is not about motivation. Motivation comes and goes like weather. Discipline is the decision you make before the emotion arrives. It is the alarm you set the night before. It is the work you start before your mind has time to negotiate. It is the quiet agreement you make with yourself that you will show up whether you feel like it or not. Because feelings lie, but action always tells the truth. And here is the deeper psychological truth underneath all of this. The reason you keep waiting for people to care about your dream is because somewhere inside, you are not fully sure you believe in yourself yet. You are outsourcing your confidence to other people's reactions. And that is not a character flaw. That is human, but it is a trap. Because no amount of external validation will ever fill an internal void. People can believe in you forever, and it will never be enough if you do not believe in yourself first. This is the identity shift that nobody talks about. You do not build belief by thinking about it. You build belief by doing things. Small things. Repeated things. Things that prove to your own nervous system that you are someone who follows through. Every time you say you will do something and then do it, even something tiny, you are writing a new story about who you are. You are becoming the person who keeps promises to themselves. And that person, that version of you who trusts themselves completely, that is the most powerful human being on earth. You cannot be stopped when you stop needing permission. And maybe right now you are thinking, but what if I fail? What if I do all of this and it does not work? What if I stay quiet and work hard and still end up with nothing to show for it? Here is the answer. The failure you are afraid of is recoverable. You can fail and rebuild. You can fail and learn. You can fail and try again with more wisdom than you had before. But there is another failure, the slow, invisible failure of never trying, of spending your life on the edge of your potential, never jumping, of being 90 years old looking back at a life of almost. That failure is not recoverable. That is the one that destroys people quietly from the inside. The brave failure always beats the safe regret, always. So here is what you do instead of waiting for the world to care. You stop announcing and start building. You stop explaining yourself and start creating proof. You stop performing your potential and start actually becoming it. You go quiet, not permanently, but strategically. You let the work speak when you cannot. You let the results arrive before the story does. You become the kind of person who does not need to tell people what they are capable of, because the evidence is already visible. This is not about being cold. This is not about being isolated. You can still love people. You can still have people in your corner, but your dream cannot live or die based on their reaction to it. Your dream has to be yours completely, fueled by something deeper than approval, older than fear, quieter than noise. It has to be fueled by who you know you are meant to become. And when you find that, when you connect to that version of yourself who is no longer waiting, no longer performing, no longer shrinking to make other people comfortable, something in you changes permanently. You stop asking for permission. You stop apologizing for ambition. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never going to understand anyway. You simply begin, and then you continue. And then you refuse to stop. Because here is the final truth. The world will not care about your dream until you have made it real. But once you do, once you have built the thing, become the person, created the proof, it will not just care, it will be inspired. Not because you were lucky, not because you were perfect, but because you were consistent when consistency was hard. Because you worked in silence when the silence was deafening. Because you chose yourself over and over again, in the moments when no one else would. That is the story that moves people, not the dream you had, the person you became in the pursuit of it. So the question is not whether anyone cares about your dream. The question is whether you care enough to stop waiting for them to. Because the version of you that is possible, the one you can already feel but cannot fully see yet, that version is not waiting for applause. That version is already working, already building, already becoming. The only question left is whether you are ready to catch up to who you already are. If this reached something real in you, subscribe. Not because it helps the channel, though it does, but because the person you are becoming needs a consistent reminder that the work is worth it, that the silence is strategic, that the dream is alive as long as you refuse to stop. Subscribe and come back. The next video is already waiting for you.